The entrance of the gilded terrace smelled like old money and fresh judgment. Kate Bennett stood frozen in the doorway, her grandmother's frail hand clutching her arm like a lifeline. The crystal chandeliers above them threw sharp, glittering light across marble floors so polished she could see her reflection staring back. A girl in a dress from a thrift store, drowning in a sea of silk and diamonds. Her hands were shaking. She hid them behind her back. The receptionist, Charles, according to his gold name tag, leaned across the podium with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. When he spoke, his voice was low, private, wrapped in false courtesy like poison in honey. The leftovers are served after 11. The pickup entrance is around back. Kate's throat closed. Her grandmother didn't hear. Thank heavens she didn't hear. But Kate felt every word like shards of glass sliding down her throat. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move. The lobby spun around her in a blur of expensive perfume and quiet laughter. She forced her lips into something that might pass for a smile. Her voice came out smaller than she wanted, trembling at the edges. I made a reservation. For tonight. It's my grandmother's 75th birthday. She watched Charles's manicured fingers dance across the computer screen. He found it. She saw the flicker of recognition in his eyes. But instead of relief, what came next was worse. He leaned in again, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Sharp, clinical, expensive. Miss Bennett. He said her name like it was something distasteful. Your attire isn't appropriate for our establishment. This is a high-standard venue. If I allow you inside, I lose my job. The words landed like blows. Kate felt her face flush hot, then cold. Around them, elegant couples glided past in tailored suits and designer gowns, their eyes sliding over her like she was invisible. Less than invisible, a problem to be avoided. Her grandmother's soft voice cut through the roar in Kate's ears. It's all right, sweetheart. We can go to a diner. I don't mind. But Kate minded. She minded so much her chest felt like it was caving in. She'd saved for 6 months. 6 months of double shifts at the school, of skipping lunches, of saying no to everything just so she could give her grandmother this one night. This one memory. The tears burned behind her eyes, hot and humiliating. She was going to cry. Right here, in front of everyone. Then a voice cut through the air like a blade. Charles, what's happening here? The voice was deep, controlled, but there was something underneath it, something that made Charles go pale. Kate turned. The man standing behind them wore a suit that probably cost more than her rent for a year. Green eyes, sharp as broken glass, shoulders broad enough to fill the doorway. He looked at Charles like a scientist examining something under a microscope. Mr. Kellerman, Charles's voice went up an octave. What a surprise to see you tonight. There's no problem at all. I was simply explaining that we don't have any available reservations. She has a reservation. Andrew Kellerman's tone didn't change, but somehow it got colder. I can see the screen from here, Charles. Her name is right there. Kate watched the receptionist's face drain of color. She watched Andrew's eyes move from Charles to her grandmother standing patient and small beside her. Something shifted in his expression, something that looked almost like recognition. He stepped closer, close enough that Kate caught the scent of his cologne, cedar and something clean, like winter air. Close enough that when he spoke, the words were meant only for her. Sit with me. It wasn't a question, wasn't quite a command. It was something else, an offer extended across an impossible distance, a hand reaching down into dark water. Kate stared at him. Her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. I don't understand. You don't have to. His voice was quiet, but there was steel underneath. Just trust me. For the next 2 hours, trust me. Before she could answer, before she could think, his hand was at the small of her back. Warm. Steady. guiding her forward. "After you, Mrs. Bennett," her grandmother supplied, her voice bright with surprise and delight. "Dorothy Bennett, and you are very kind, young man." Kate looked back once as they crossed the threshold into the restaurant proper. Charles stood frozen at his podium, mouth slightly open, face drained of blood. Around them, heads turned. Whispers started, spreading like ripples across still water. Andrew's hand stayed at her back, a point of warmth against her spine. She could feel the eyes on them, everyone watching, wondering, judging. But for the first time since she'd walked through those doors, Kate felt something other than shame. She felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. Kate was sitting at a table she had no business being at. The kind of table tucked into a corner alcove, surrounded by silk curtains and candlelight that seemed to glow from nowhere. Around her, silverware gleamed. Too many forks, too many knives, each one a small trap waiting to spring. Her grandmother was radiant, talking to Andrew like they were old friends, asking him questions about his work, his family, completely unaware of the panic clawing its way up Kate's throat. The menu arrived. No prices, just names in French that might as well have been ancient hieroglyphics. Kate's hands went cold. She stared at the words swimming across the cream-colored page. Canard confit, bouillabaisse, côte de bœuf. Her mind went blank. White noise filled her ears. She was going to humiliate herself again. Right here, in front of the man who'd saved her. Then Andrew's voice, low and easy. "The duck is incredible here. It's basically just roasted with this orange glaze. Sounds fancy, but it's comfort food once you taste it." Kate looked up. He was watching her, green eyes steady, a small smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "And this one," he pointed casually to another item, "is just grilled fish with herbs. Simple, but they do it perfectly." He kept going, describing each dish in words that made sense, words that made her mouth water instead of her stomach drop. And when the waiter returned, Andrew ordered for the table with the easy confidence of someone who belonged here. But he did it in a way that didn't make Kate feel small. He asked her grandmother what she wanted first, then Kate. And when Kate hesitated, he simply said, "Trust me," and ordered something he promised she'd love. The first course arrived. Kate watched Andrew from the corner of her eye, saw which fork he picked up, how he held it. She copied him. Nobody noticed. Or if they did, nobody cared. Her grandmother was telling Andrew about Kate's love for children, her gift for teaching. Kate felt her cheeks warm as the older woman's voice filled with pride. "She's wonderful with them, patient, kind. They adore her." Andrew turned to Kate. "Are you teaching now?" The question was genuine. No pity in it. No judgment. Just curiosity. Kate set down her fork carefully. "Not currently. The schools here require qualifications I don't have yet. References from people I don't know." Something flickered in Andrew's eyes. He nodded slowly, like he was filing that information away somewhere important. The evening unfolded like a dream Kate was afraid to wake from. The food was exquisite. Andrew had been right about everything. Her grandmother laughed, really laughed, in a way Kate hadn't heard in years. And Andrew asked questions that made Kate feel seen, not as someone to be pitied or saved, but as someone worth knowing. Then dessert arrived, not just dessert. A birthday cake, small, elegant, covered in delicate frosting roses. Sparklers instead of candles sent tiny stars shooting into the air. Kate's grandmother pressed both hands to her mouth. Tears spilled over her wrinkled cheeks. "It's been so long," she whispered. "So long since anyone did something like this for me." Kate's own vision blurred. She looked at Andrew and found him staring down at the table, jaw tight, something raw and unguarded crossing his face. Like the sight of an old woman crying from happiness had reached inside him and touched something tender, something that still hurt. When they finally left the restaurant, Andrew insisted on driving them home. His car was sleek and quiet, the kind where the doors closed with a whisper instead of a slam. Kate sat in the back with her grandmother, watching the city lights blur past the window, feeling the weight of the evening settle over her like a blanket. This wasn't her world. It never would be. The thought sat heavy in her chest. They pulled up outside her grandmother's small house, white paint peeling at the corners, tiny front yard, porch light flickering. It looked even smaller next to Andrew's car. Kate felt that familiar shame trying to crawl up her throat again. But Andrew killed the engine and walked them to the door, shook Dorothy's hand with genuine warmth, waited until she was safely inside. Then he turned to Kate. He pulled a business card from his jacket pocket, produced a pen. "Can you write your number on this?" Kate's hand trembled as she took the pen. Her handwriting came out shaky. "I have a lot of connections in the city," Andrew said. His voice was careful, measured. "If I hear about any teaching positions, would it be all right if I called you?" Kate handed the card back. Their fingers brushed. The contact lasted maybe a second, but she felt it like an electric shock running up her arm. "Why are you doing this?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Andrew looked at her for a long moment. The streetlight cast shadows across his face, made his green eyes darker. She saw something move behind them, something vulnerable and quickly hidden. Because someone should. 3 words, simple, devastating. He walked back to his car. Kate stood on the curb, the business card warm in her hand, watching his taillights disappear around the corner. Her heart was a confused, tangled mess in her chest. She didn't understand what had just happened. Didn't understand why a man like Andrew Kellerman would waste his evening on a girl like her. But she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She would never forget this night. 2 days later, Kate's phone rang. She was folding laundry in her grandmother's living room, the TV murmuring in the background. She didn't recognize the number, almost let it go to voicemail. Something made her answer. "Kate, this is Andrew Kellerman." His voice hit her like a wave. Kate nearly dropped the phone. Her heart kicked into overdrive. "I have a proposal for you." The words hung in the air. Kate sank onto the couch, her knees suddenly unreliable. "What kind of proposal?" "I have a younger sister, Olivia. She's 12, studies at a boarding school upstate. She'll be home for summer break in a week." Kate's hand tightened on the phone. Where was this going? "I work long hours. I can't be home during the day. And Olivia," his voice softened, "she needs someone. Someone patient and kind. Someone good with kids." Kate's pulse hammered in her throat. "I'd like to hire you as her companion for the summer. Temporary. Just until she goes back to school in September." The words crashed over her. This was perfect. This was everything she needed. A summer job. Good pay, probably. Experience with children. Time to figure out her next step. "Yes." The answer flew out before she could think. "Yes, I'd love to." She heard him exhale. Relief, maybe, or something else. "Can you start Monday?" "Monday is perfect." They worked out the details. Hours. Pay. More than Kate had dared hope for. Address. When she hung up, her hands were shaking, but this time from excitement, not fear. Her grandmother appeared in the doorway, eyes bright with knowing. "That young man likes you, Kate." Kate felt heat rush to her face. "Grandma, no, he's just being kind. He barely knows me." Her grandmother's smile was gentle, unconvinced. "If you say so, dear." Monday morning arrived too quickly and not quickly enough. Kate stood outside Andrew's address, staring up at the house. Not a house. A mansion. Stone and glass, an impossibly green lawn. Windows that caught the morning sun and threw it back in brilliant shards. Iron gates that had swung open automatically when she'd approached. Kate's mouth went dry. She walked up the stone path on legs that felt like water. raised her hand to knock. The door flew open before her knuckles touched wood. A girl with wild brown curls and bright eyes launched herself forward. Not quite a hug. They were strangers, but close. Enthusiastic. "You're Kate. Oh my gosh, you're finally here. Andrew has been talking about you non-stop. Olivia." Andrew's voice came from somewhere inside. Warning, amused. The girl grinned, completely unrepentant. "Well, you have. You said she was brave and kind and live." Firmer this time. Andrew appeared behind his sister. Jeans and a simple white shirt. Hair still damp like he'd just showered. He looked younger like this, less untouchable. "I mentioned you," he said to Kate, shooting Olivia a look. "Once or twice." Kate felt something flutter in her chest. He'd talked about her, called her brave, her, the girl who'd been about to cry at a restaurant entrance. "Come in," Andrew said. "Please." The house was beautiful, but not cold, not empty. There were books everywhere, photos on the walls, a throw blanket crumpled on the couch like someone actually sat there. It felt lived in, warm. Olivia gave her a tour, chattering the entire time. Showed her the kitchen, the game room, the massive backyard with its pool and garden. Kate tried to absorb it all, tried not to feel overwhelmed. Andrew followed at a distance, quiet, watching. When it was time for him to leave for work, he hesitated at the door, turned back. "Kate." His voice was different, softer. "Thank you for saying yes. It means more than you know." Then he was gone, and Kate was left standing in the entrance hall with Olivia bouncing beside her. The girl looked up, eyes sparkling with mischief. "He's never brought anyone here before. To take care of me, I mean. He always says he doesn't trust strangers." Kate frowned. "But he barely knows me." Olivia's grin widened. "Exactly." 3 weeks in, and Kate had stopped feeling like a visitor. She was in the backyard, controller in hand, watching her character die for the 15th time. Olivia was laughing so hard she'd fallen sideways onto the grass. "Kate, you are officially the worst player I've ever seen." "I'm trying," Kate protested, laughing despite herself. "These buttons don't make sense. You're pressing jump when you should be pressing attack. They're the same button. They are definitely not the same button." Their laughter rang out across the garden, bright and careless. Kate didn't hear the car pull up, didn't hear footsteps on the stone path, didn't know Andrew had come home early until Olivia looked up and waved. "You're home. Kate's terrible at video games. It's amazing." Andrew stood at the edge of the patio. Still in his work clothes, tie loosened, jacket slung over one arm. He was staring at them like he'd stumbled into something he didn't want to disturb. Kate scrambled to her feet, brushing grass off her jeans. "I didn't hear you come in." "I can see that." His voice was warm, amused. "Don't let me interrupt." But something in his face made Kate's breath catch. The way he was looking at them, at her, like this simple scene, a girl and his sister laughing in the sun, meant something important. The routine settled in like morning light through curtains, easy, natural. Kate would arrive at 8. Olivia would be waiting, usually still in pajamas, always smiling. They'd make breakfast together, pancakes that never came out quite right, eggs that sometimes got a little too crispy. The kitchen would end up covered in flour and Olivia would be covered in batter, and they'd laugh until their sides hurt. Then they'd plan the day, the museum, the park, the bookstore downtown where Olivia could spend an hour deciding on one book. Sometimes they'd stay home, painting or baking or just talking on the back porch while the afternoon stretched long and golden around them. Olivia transformed under Kate's attention. The quiet, careful girl from that first Monday disappeared. In her place was someone bright and bold, full of questions and opinions and terrible jokes that Kate pretended were funny. And Andrew started coming home earlier. At first it was little things, arriving at 5 instead of 7, then 4:30. Then suddenly he'd appear at 3, claiming he'd forgotten documents or needed to make calls from home. Kate knew better. She saw the way his eyes would search them out the moment he walked through the door. The way he'd linger in doorways, watching Olivia show Kate her latest drawing or Kate teaching Olivia how to braid hair. He wanted to be there, with them. One Thursday evening, Olivia went upstairs to video chat with friends from school. Kate stayed behind to clean up the kitchen. They'd attempted homemade pasta, and the results were everywhere. Andrew appeared in the doorway, rolled up his sleeves, started helping without asking. They worked in comfortable silence. Kate washing, Andrew drying. The rhythm of it felt natural. Right. "Why does Olivia go to boarding school?" Kate asked quietly. "You clearly miss her." Andrew's hand stilled on the dish towel. For a long moment, he didn't answer. "Our parents died when I was 22. His voice was careful, controlled. "Car accident. Olivia was 4. Kate's chest tightened. "I had to take over everything. The business. Raising her. I thought—" He paused. "I thought boarding school would be better. That she'd have stability, structure, things I couldn't give her." He set down the dish he'd been drying, stared at it like it held answers. "Now I'm not sure I made the right choice." Kate turned off the water, dried her hands, looked at him. "She loves you. Anyone can see that." Andrew's jaw worked. "She barely knows me." "That's not true." Kate's voice was gentle but firm. "She talks about you constantly, about the time you took her ice skating even though you hate the cold, about how you call her every Sunday no matter what, about the way you remember her favorite books." Andrew looked at her then, really looked at her. Something raw in his eyes. "You've given her more happiness in 3 weeks than I've managed in years." "That's not—" "It is." He took a step closer, close enough that Kate could smell cedar and winter air. "You have this gift, Kate. With kids, with people, you make them feel safe." Kate's heart kicked against her ribs. They were standing too close. She should step back, should put distance between them. She didn't move. "Thank you," Andrew said softly, "for bringing her back to me." He reached out, slow, giving her time to pull away. His fingers brushed her cheek, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The touch was feather-light, barely there, but Kate felt it like a brand. "You're welcome," she whispered. Andrew's hand lingered for a heartbeat, 2, then dropped. He stepped back, cleared his throat. "I should let you get home." Kate nodded, didn't trust her voice. That night, Kate lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She could still feel his fingers against her skin. Could still see the way he'd looked at her in the kitchen, like she was something precious, something rare. She was falling for him. The realization hit her like cold water, sharp, undeniable. She was falling for Andrew Kellerman, and it was the most terrifying thing she'd ever felt. Because in a few weeks, summer would end. Olivia would go back to school, and Kate would go back to her life, the real one, where billionaires didn't touch her cheek in kitchens and look at her like she hung the moon. This was temporary, a summer dream, nothing more. Her heart didn't seem to understand that. Kate was running, her lungs burned, her legs screamed. The phone pressed to her ear felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Kate, your grandmother collapsed. The ambulance is coming." The neighbor's voice kept replaying in her head, over and over, a broken record she couldn't shut off. It was late, past 10. She'd stayed at the mansion because Olivia had a nightmare and begged her not to leave. Andrew had said it was fine, had offered to drive her home in the morning. Now she was racing down the hallway, already reaching for her bag, when Andrew appeared. "Kate, what's wrong?" She couldn't form words. Her hands were shaking too badly. She held up her phone like it explained everything. Andrew took one look at her face, grabbed his keys. "Come on." The hospital was too bright, too loud. Antiseptic smell burning Kate's nose, fluorescent lights humming overhead like angry insects. Kate sat in the waiting room, hands clasped so tight her knuckles ached. Andrew sat beside her, solid, silent, a wall between her and the panic trying to swallow her whole. Doctors came and went, used words Kate couldn't process. Blood pressure, possible stroke, need to run tests. She felt like she was drowning. Andrew didn't say everything would be okay, didn't offer empty promises. He just stayed, didn't leave, didn't check his phone, just sat there, present and steady, while Kate's world tilted sideways. A nurse approached with a clipboard. "We'll need insurance information." Kate's voice came out broken. "We don't have insurance." The nurse's expression shifted, sympathetic but practical. "Then we'll need to discuss payment options. Put everything on my account." Andrew's voice cut clean through the conversation. "Every test, every procedure, whatever she needs. Private room. Best doctors you have." Kate's head snapped toward him. "Andrew, I can't." "You can." His eyes met hers, green and certain. "And you will." The nurse nodded, made notes, disappeared. Kate stared at Andrew, tried to find words. Couldn't. "Don't," he said quietly. "Don't argue with me about this." Hours crawled by like wounded things. Finally, a doctor emerged. Older man, kind eyes, tired smile. "She's stable. It wasn't a stroke, just severely elevated blood pressure. We've got her on medication. She needs to rest, reduce stress, but she's going to be fine." The words took a moment to land, to penetrate the fog of fear. Then they hit. Kate made a sound she didn't recognize, something between a sob and a gasp. The relief was so intense it hurt. All the terror, all the hours of not knowing, came crashing down at once. She started crying right there in the hospital corridor. Couldn't stop. Couldn't breathe through it. Andrew didn't hesitate. His arms came around her, pulling her against his chest. One hand in her hair, the other steady against her back. "It's okay." His voice rumbled through his chest into her ear. "She's okay. You're okay." Kate clung to him like he was the only solid thing in a spinning world. Buried her face in his shirt and let herself break apart. His heart beat steady and strong beneath her cheek. Proof that the world hadn't ended, that there was still something certain to hold on to. She didn't know how long they stood there. Time felt strange, unreliable. When she finally pulled back, mortified, she saw the wet patch on his shirt. "I'm sorry, Andrew's hand stayed on her shoulders, firm, grounding. "Kate, listen to me." His voice was quiet but intense. "You're not alone in this. Do you understand?" She nodded. Couldn't speak. "I'm going to take care of everything. Medications, follow-up appointments, whatever she needs." Kate wanted to refuse, wanted to say she couldn't accept that much help. But the truth was crushing and simple. She couldn't afford to refuse. And Andrew was looking at her like caring for her wasn't a burden, like it was something else entirely, like it was a privilege. "I don't want to go." Olivia's voice cracked on the last word. Her arms locked around Kate's neck, face pressed into her shoulder. The suitcase sat by the front door like an executioner. Kate's own eyes burned. She blinked hard against the tears. "I'm going to miss you so much, Liv." "Then come visit." "Andrew, tell her she can visit." Andrew stood in the doorway, jaw tight, eyes dark, with something Kate couldn't name. "You can visit any time you want," he said quietly. The car arrived too soon. Olivia pulled away, scrubbing at her eyes. She looked at Kate one more time. "Promise you'll text me every day." "Every single day," Kate whispered. Then she was gone. The door closed. The car rolled down the driveway and disappeared around the corner. The house felt enormous and empty. Kate should leave too. Her job was done. Summer was over. "Stay." Andrew's voice stopped her hand on her bag. Just for a bit, to help me organize some things. They both knew it was an excuse. Neither of them cared. They ended up in the living room, surrounded by photos Kate had taken over the summer. Olivia laughing in the park. Olivia covered in paint. Olivia and Kate making faces at the camera. "You changed this place," Andrew said suddenly. "Changed her. Changed me." Kate looked at him. Her heart was too full, too confused. "Andrew, I got you a job." The words came fast, rushed. "At Belmont Academy, best private school in the city. They need an assistant teacher. The salary is excellent. You'd be perfect for it." Kate's breath stopped. You did that for me." "Of course I did." Like it was obvious. Like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was everything. Kate stood. She needed to leave before she did something stupid, like cry, or worse. "I should let you get back to your life." Andrew stood too. "What if I don't want my life back?" The words hung in the air between them. Sharp. Raw. Kate froze. "What do you mean?" Andrew ran a hand through his hair, frustrated, vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. "The last 2 months have been the best of my life, and it wasn't just Olivia. It was you, your laugh, the way you sing off key while cooking, the way you care about everyone around you, the way you make me want to be better." He moved closer. Kate's heart hammered. "I tried not to think about you like this. Tried to keep it professional. But I can't, Kate. I can't stop thinking about you." Closer still. "You deserve someone better. Someone without all this baggage. Someone who isn't married to their work. But I'm selfish. And I want you in my life. Not as Olivia's companion. As mine." Kate couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. "Andrew, I don't belong in your world. You saw that at the restaurant. I don't even know which fork to use." He was right in front of her now, close enough to see the gold flecks in his green eyes. "You think I care about forks?" His voice dropped. Rough. "Kate, you're the most real person I've ever met, and I'm completely in love with you." The silence roared in Kate's ears. "Say something," Andrew whispered, raw, exposed. "Please. I'm in love with you too." The words came out barely louder than a breath, but to Andrew they might as well have been shouted. His eyes closed. His shoulders dropped like he'd been holding up the world and could finally set it down. "Thank God," he whispered. Then he was moving, closing the space between them in 2 steps. His hand found her face, palm warm against her cheek, thumb tracing the line of her cheekbone. Kate's eyes fluttered shut. She leaned into his touch, into him. His other hand slid to her waist, drawing her closer. She could feel his breath against her lips, warm, unsteady. Could feel the thunder of his heartbeat where her hand pressed against his chest. His forehead touched hers, their noses brushed. Kate's fingers curled into his shirt. Another inch, that was all. Just 1 more inch and her phone exploded with sound. They jerked apart like they'd been shocked. Kate fumbled for the phone with shaking hands, heart slamming against her ribs. Her grandmother's name lit up the screen. "I have to..." Kate's voice came out strange, broken. "Answer it," Andrew said. Rough, frustrated, but understanding. Her grandmother just wanted to know when she'd be home. Simple question, normal question. But it shattered whatever spell had wrapped around them. When Kate hung up, reality crashed back in like cold water. "I need to go," she said. Couldn't quite meet his eyes. "Kate, please, just take me home." The car ride stretched tight with tension. Kate pressed against the passenger door. Andrew's hands gripped the steering wheel too tight, knuckles white. They didn't touch, but Kate felt connected to him anyway. Like invisible threads ran between them, pulled taut, humming with energy. When they stopped outside her house, Andrew turned to her. "What I said back there. Was it true? Kate interrupted. Had to know, had to hear it again. Every word. No hesitation. Absolute certainty. Something in Kate's chest loosened, settled. Then, can we go slow? The request came out small, uncertain. I've never had something like this before. Andrew's expression softened. The tension in his jaw eased. He smiled, a real smile that made her stomach flip. We can go whatever speed you want. I'm not going anywhere. He reached over, took her hand, threaded their fingers together. But I want to do this right. Real dates. Getting to know your grandmother better. Showing you I'm serious about us. That word. Us. It made Kate's heart skip like a stone across water. The next week, Andrew kept his promise. He showed up Tuesday with flowers. Not roses, too obvious. Wildflowers in shades of purple and gold that reminded Kate of summer sunsets. He took her to a small Italian restaurant, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candles stuck in wine bottles, where she didn't have to worry about which fork to use because there was only one fork. He met her grandmother officially, sat in their tiny living room drinking tea from mismatched cups, listening to Dorothy's stories about Kate as a child, laughing in all the right places, looking at Kate like every embarrassing story just made him love her more. Friday, he took her to the farmer's market. They bought fresh bread and honey, cheese that cost too much but tasted like heaven. Walked through crowds eating samples, shoulders bumping, fingers occasionally brushing, neither of them pulling away. It should have been perfect. It was perfect. But every time they went out, Kate felt the stares, saw the way people looked at them, at Andrew in his expensive casual clothes, at her in her thrift store sundress, saw the calculation in their eyes, the judgment, the questions. She heard the whispers, not always the words, but the tone. Curious, skeptical, sometimes cruel. One woman at a gallery opening, Andrew had wanted to show her a new exhibit, actually stepped in front of them. Andrew Kellerman, I haven't seen you in ages. Her eyes slid to Kate, cold, assessing. And you've brought a guest. The way she said guest made Kate want to disappear. Andrew's arm tightened around her waist. This is Kate, my girlfriend. The woman's smile was all teeth. How lovely. Where did you two meet? Does it matter? Andrew's tone could have cut glass. The woman laughed. Moved on, but the damage was done. That night, Kate sat on her grandmother's couch, staring at nothing. Dorothy settled beside her, waited. What if it's not enough? Kate finally whispered. What if I can never be what he needs? That man looks at you like you're the son, her grandmother said gently. Do you really think he cares what anyone else thinks? Kate wanted to believe that, desperately wanted to believe it. But doubt was a living thing. It grew in the spaces between heartbeats, fed on every sideways glance, every whispered comment. What if loving him wasn't enough? What if she wasn't enough? You want me to go where? Kate's hand tightened on the phone. Her knuckles went white. A charity gala, Andrew repeated patiently. It's important for the business, and I want you there, with me, as my date. The panic rose like floodwater, fast, choking. Andrew, I can't. I don't have anything to wear to that kind of event. I won't know how to act. I'll embarrass you. The silence stretched so long, Kate thought the call had dropped. Then Andrew's voice came back, quieter, almost hurt. Kate, you could never embarrass me, never. But if you really don't want to go, I understand. The choice is yours. Kate went, because she couldn't say no to him. And because some small, brave part of her, the same part that had walked into the gilded terrace that first night, wanted to try. A stylist arrived at her house with dresses that probably cost more than her car. Kate chose the simplest one, navy blue, elegant, without being flashy. It made her honey-brown eyes look almost gold in the right light. When Andrew picked her up, he stopped in the doorway. Just stopped. Stared at her like he'd forgotten how to breathe. You look. His voice failed. He cleared his throat. Tried again. Kate, you're absolutely stunning. Heat rushed to her face, but his eyes were so sincere, so warm, that she let herself believe it. The gala was exactly what Kate had feared. Crystal chandeliers throwing diamonds of light across marble floors. Women in gowns that cost more than Kate made in 6 months. Men in tuxedos with watches that could have paid for her grandmother's medical bills. Kate felt like she was back at the gilded terrace, out of place, watched, weighed and found wanting. But this time, Andrew never left her side. His hand stayed at the small of her back. Warm, constant. A silent message. I'm here. He introduced her to everyone. This is Kate Bennett, my girlfriend. Said it with fierce pride that made her chest tight. Every time he said girlfriend, Kate's heart stumbled, remembered how to beat. Then a voice cut through the crowd like winter wind. Andrew Kellerman. The woman approaching was tall, draped in jewelry that caught light like trapped stars. 70 if she was a day, but her spine was steel and her eyes were sharp as broken glass. Vivian Ashford. Kate knew the name even before Andrew tensed beside her. Old money, old power, old judgments, older still. I've heard interesting rumors about you. Vivian's gaze slid to Kate, lingered, assessed, dismissed. And this must be the novelty. The word landed like a slap. Women gathered around them, circling, smiling smiles that never reached their eyes. You know how it is these days, Vivian continued, her voice carried. People nearby stop talking to listen. Young people think they can simply mix with anyone without considering reputation, breeding, proper education. She smiled, cold, calculating. It's admirable, I suppose. Charity does begin at home. Or should I say, charity ends at home? The women around her laughed. That crystalline, cruel sound that Kate remembered from every bad day of high school. From every moment she'd ever felt small. Kate's face burned. Her throat closed. She was going to be sick. Going to cry. Going to... Andrew moved. One step forward, putting himself slightly in front of her. His shoulders went rigid as stone. When he spoke, his voice was colder than Kate had ever heard it. Mrs. Ashford. Not a greeting, a warning. Choose your next words very carefully. Vivian blinked, actually looked surprised. Kate is not Charity. Each word precise as a scalpel. She is the woman I love. And if you or anyone else in this room has comments about her worth based on her bank account, about whether she belongs in this shallow, superficial world. He paused. Let his gaze sweep the now silent circle of women. Then I suggest you reconsider not just your words, but your character. Because the difference between Kate and all of you isn't class. It's humanity. Something you clearly lost somewhere between your mansions and your jewels. The silence was absolute. Vivian had gone pale. Her mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. No one spoke to Vivian Ashford like that. No one. Andrew turned to Kate. His face softened instantly. Dance with me? Not really a question. On the dance floor, Kate was shaking. Not from fear, not from humiliation, from something much more dangerous. Andrew pulled her close. One hand at her waist, the other holding hers. His thumb traced circles on her palm. Are you okay? He asked quietly. Kate looked up at him. Really looked. Saw the tension still tight in his jaw, the concern in his green eyes, the way he held her like she was something precious. You defended me. Her voice came out whisper soft, still processing. Of course I did. He sounded genuinely confused, like any other action would have been impossible. Kate, I will always defend you, against Vivian Ashford, against the whole world if I have to. Something cracked inside Kate. Or maybe something healed. She wasn't sure which. Tears came hot and fast. "No one's ever done that for me before," she admitted, voice breaking. Andrew stopped dancing, right there in the middle of the floor. People were watching, of course they were, but he didn't care. He let go of her hand to frame her face with both palms. His thumbs wiped away tears. "Then everyone before me was a fool," he said fiercely, "because you deserve to be defended, deserve to be protected, deserve everything, Kate, everything." And Kate realized something with breathtaking clarity. She'd spent all this time worrying if she was good enough for his world. But Andrew had never cared about that world. The only thing he'd ever cared about was her. Everything was perfect. That was the problem. Kate was curled into Andrew's side on his living room couch. A movie played on the screen, something with car chases she wasn't watching. His arm wrapped around her shoulders, warm and solid. His heart beat steady beneath her ear. Her own heart felt too full, like it might burst right out of her chest. And that's when the thought struck, sharp as a knife between ribs. This can't last. The fear came fast, drowning fast. She'd already fallen, completely, hopelessly. And when it ended, because things like this always ended, it would destroy her. The next few days, Kate started pulling back. Small things at first, taking longer to answer texts, saying she was tired when Andrew invited her to dinner, making excuses. Andrew noticed. Of course he noticed. But he gave her space, didn't push, didn't demand explanations. Until Thursday night, when he appeared at her door unannounced. "We need to talk." His voice was quiet, controlled. But something underneath it made Kate's stomach drop. Her grandmother took one look at them and disappeared into her bedroom. They sat on the small couch. The space between them felt like miles. "Kate." Andrew turned to face her. "What's happening? You're pulling away, and I need to know why." Kate couldn't look at him, stared at her hands instead. "I think we're moving too fast." The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. Andrew went very still. "You're lying." His voice was soft, certain. "This isn't about speed. This is about fear." Kate's eyes burned. She squeezed them shut. "Andrew, I don't belong in your world. You saw what happened at the gala. Those people, they look at me and see someone who shouldn't be there. And maybe they're right." Andrew stood abruptly, paced to the window, turned back. "So that's it? You're going to let the opinions of people who don't matter decide our happiness? They matter to you." Kate's voice cracked. "Your business depends on those people, those connections, and I'll always be the girl who doesn't know which fork to use." Andrew stared at her with such intensity she could barely breathe. "You really think that of me?" His voice was rough, raw. "That I care more about business than about you? Kate, I would sell everything tomorrow if it meant keeping you." Kate shot to her feet, her own emotions spilling over. "But I don't want you to do that. Don't want you giving up anything for me, because eventually you'll resent me for it. You'll wake up one day and realize what you sacrificed, and I could never resent you." Andrew's voice broke. "Kate, I love you. Don't you understand that? I love you." The words hung in the air between them. First time he'd said it, out loud, like that. Kate felt like she'd been struck by lightning. "Andrew, tell me you don't love me." His voice came out desperate, challenging. "Look me in the eye and say you don't love me, and I'll leave. I'll give you space. I'll walk away." Tears spilled down Kate's cheeks, hot, unstoppable. "I can't," she whispered, "because I love you. I love you so much it terrifies me." "Then why are we doing this?" Andrew closed the distance between them in 2 strides. "Why are we hurting each other?" Kate had no answer, just tears. Andrew pulled her into his arms. She collapsed against him, every wall she'd built crumbling to dust. "Don't push me away," he said into her hair, voice shaking. "Please, Kate. We can work through anything, but don't push me away." Kate nodded against his chest, held him like he was the only solid thing in a world made of water. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of trying to take it slow that felt like drowning in slow motion. Kate missed him in a way that hurt. The sound of his laugh, the way he looked at her like she was precious, how he made her feel safe in a world that had never been safe before. She was at school, organizing her classroom after the students left. Friday afternoon quiet, golden light slanting through windows, footsteps in the hallway. Kate looked up, expecting the janitor. It was Andrew, standing in her doorway, suit rumpled, tie loose, hair disheveled, dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. "Andrew, what are you doing here?" He stepped into the room, closed the door behind him. "I can't do this anymore." His voice was rough, urgent. "These last 3 weeks have been hell. I tried to give you space, tried to respect your fears. But Kate, I can't pretend this is okay when it's not." He moved closer. Kate's heart slammed against her ribs. "The house is empty without you. I wake up thinking about you. Fall asleep thinking about you. You've taken over every part of my life and I don't want it back. I want you." Kate felt tears burning. "Andrew, I know." He cut her off gently. "I know you're scared. So am I. But I'm asking you to trust me. Trust that we can face anything together." Then he dropped to one knee. Right there, on the classroom floor, surrounded by alphabet posters and children's drawings. Kate stopped breathing. He pulled a small box from his pocket. "I didn't plan to do this here," Andrew said, looking up at her with those green eyes she loved so much. "Had this whole elaborate thing planned, nice restaurant, the works. But then I realized that's not us." He gestured around the simple classroom. "We're this. Real moments, places that matter. Kate Bennett, you taught me what actually matters in life. Not business or money or impressing people who don't care." "It's loving someone so completely you can't imagine a day without them." His voice caught. "I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But I'd rather face my fears with you than be safe without you." He opened the box. A simple ring caught the afternoon light. Elegant, timeless, perfect. "I'm not asking you to fit into my world. I'm asking to build a new one with you. One where none of that other stuff matters. Just love and laughter and moments like this." His hands shook slightly. "Marry me, Kate. Please." Kate couldn't speak, could barely see through tears. So she just nodded. Nodded and nodded and nodded, laughing and crying at the same time. Andrew slid the ring onto her finger with trembling hands, then stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like salt and promises and coming home. When they broke apart, Kate pressed her forehead to his. "I'm sorry I doubted us." "Never apologize for being afraid," Andrew murmured. "Just promise you'll stay." "Forever," Kate whispered. "I promise forever." Later that evening, they drove to Kate's house together. Her grandmother opened the door, took one look at their faces, radiant, hands clasped tight, and burst into tears. "I knew it!" She pulled them both inside. "From that very first night at the restaurant, I knew you two were meant for each other." They told her everything, about the fear and the doubts, and finally choosing love over fear. Dorothy hugged Andrew like he was her own grandson. "You'll take care of my Kate." Not a question, a certainty. "With my life," Andrew said, meant it. Kate sat in her grandmother's small living room, the same house where she'd grown up. Same worn couch, same family photos on the walls, but everything felt different now. She was surrounded by the two people she loved most in the world, and she realized her grandmother had been right all along. She and Andrew were meant for each other, not because their worlds fit perfectly, but because they were willing to build a new world together, one day at a time, one kiss at a time, forever. 6 months had passed since Andrew knelt in her classroom. 6 months of planning and dreaming, and Kate pinching herself every morning to make sure it was real. Now she stood in a small room at the back of the garden venue, staring at herself in the mirror. The dress was simple. Ivory lace with long sleeves, flowing down to the floor like water. Her hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, a single fresh flower tucked behind her ear. Her grandmother stood beside her, dabbing at her eyes with a handkerchief. "You look like an angel, sweetheart." Kate took her grandmother's hand, squeezed it tight. "I wish Mom and Dad could see this." "They can, honey, I promise you they can." A knock at the door. Olivia burst in, her bridesmaid dress a soft blue that made her eyes sparkle. She'd grown taller over the school year, but her smile was still the same, bright and infectious. "It's time!" She bounced on her toes. "Andrew's out there and he looks like he's about to pass out. It's adorable." Kate laughed through the tears, threatening to spill. "He's nervous. He's terrified, but in the best way." Olivia hugged her quickly. "Come on, let's go make him cry." The garden was perfect. White chairs arranged in neat rows. Flowers everywhere. Wildflowers in purple and gold. The same kind Andrew had brought her on their first real date. String lights hung overhead even though it was still afternoon, catching the sunlight and throwing soft sparkles across everything. The guests were few. Intimate. People who actually mattered. Kate's friends from the school. Andrew's business partner and his wife. Some of Olivia's school friends who'd become Kate's friends over visits and video chats. Her grandmother's neighbors who'd helped them through the hardest times. And there, at the front, standing under an arch woven with vines and flowers, was Andrew. He wore a dark suit, simple and elegant, but it was his face that made Kate's breath catch. He was crying, not trying to hide it, not wiping the tears away, just standing there with his heart written across his face for everyone to see. The music started. Some soft classical piece Kate had picked because it reminded her of their first dance at the Gilded Terrace. Her grandmother walked beside her down the aisle. Slow steps, steady, each one bringing Kate closer to the man who'd changed everything. Andrew's eyes never left her face. His smile was trembling at the edges, tears still falling, and Kate had never seen anything more beautiful. When they reached the arch, her grandmother placed Kate's hand in Andrew's, leaned up to kiss his cheek. "Take care of my girl," she whispered. "Always," Andrew promised. His voice was rough with emotion. They turned to face each other. The officiant started talking, but Kate barely heard the words. She was too focused on Andrew's face. On the way, he was looking at her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. Then it was time for vows. Andrew went first. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. His hands shook as he opened it. "Kate." His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. Tried again. "6 months ago, you walked into my life wearing a dress from a thrift store and carrying more courage than anyone I'd ever met. You were terrified, but you showed up anyway. And that's who you are. The bravest person I know." He paused, swallowed hard. "You taught me that a life measured in contracts and business deals isn't a life at all. You taught me that home isn't a place, it's a person. You're my person, Kate. You're my home. And I promise to spend every day for the rest of my life making sure you know how loved you are, how precious, how absolutely essential to my existence." His voice broke on the last words. Kate was crying openly now, not even trying to stop. Her turn. She didn't have notes, didn't need them. "Andrew, you saved me. Not just that night at the restaurant, though you did. But you saved me from believing I wasn't enough. From thinking love had to be earned or that I had to change who I was to deserve it." Her voice wavered but held. "You saw me when I felt invisible. You defended me when I couldn't defend myself. You loved me before I knew how to love myself. And I promise to love you with everything I have. In front of fancy people and in our kitchen making pancakes that never turn out right. when you're being the brilliant businessman, and when you're just being you. I choose you, Andrew. Every single day for the rest of my life. The officiant's voice seemed to come from far away. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Andrew's hands framed her face, gentle and sure. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to close the distance, meeting her halfway. The kiss was soft, sweet, full of promise. When they broke apart, Andrew pressed his forehead to hers. My wife, he whispered, testing out the word, loving the sound of it. My husband, Kate whispered back. The garden erupted in applause and cheers. The reception was in the same garden as the ceremony. Tables scattered across the lawn, fairy lights now glowing as the sun started to sink toward the horizon. Soft music played from hidden speakers. Dinner was simple but perfect. Laughter rose and fell around them like waves. Olivia gave a toast that made everyone cry and laugh in equal measure, talking about how Kate had taught her what family really meant. Kate's grandmother spoke next, her voice strong despite her age. I knew from the moment I met this young man that he was special. Not because of his money or his success, but because of the way he looked at my granddaughter. Like she hung the moon and stars. Hold on to that, you two. That's what matters. Then Andrew stood, pulled Kate to her feet. Dance with me, Mrs. Kellerman? The name sent a thrill through her. Mrs. Kellerman. She was Mrs. Kellerman now. He led her to the center of the lawn. The music shifted to something slow and sweet. Andrew's arms came around her waist. Kate's hands linked behind his neck. They swayed together, hardly moving, just holding each other. Happy? Andrew asked quietly. Kate looked up at him, at his green eyes reflecting the fairy lights, at the smile that was just for her. Happier than I knew was possible. Around them, other couples joined the dance. Her grandmother was dancing with Andrew's business partner, both of them laughing. Olivia was dancing with one of her school friends, spinning in circles. But Kate only had eyes for Andrew. I love you, she said. Simple words, profound truth. I love you too. He kissed her forehead, her temple, the corner of her mouth. Thank you for saying yes, for trusting me, for choosing us. Always, Kate promised. Every single day I choose us. Hours later, as the party wound down and the last guests said their goodbyes, Kate and Andrew stood by the same fountain where they'd first locked eyes across a crowded restaurant. The moon was high now, painting everything silver. Kate had kicked off her heels hours ago. Andrew's tie was long gone, his shirt sleeves rolled up. He pulled something from his pocket, a cocktail napkin, folded carefully. Remember our contract? He asked, eyes twinkling. Kate laughed. How could I forget? He unfolded the napkin. In his sharp, decisive handwriting, he'd written something new. The final contract. Mr. Kellerman and Mrs. Kellerman hereby agree to love each other fiercely, laugh often, dance in kitchens, make terrible pancakes, defend each other always, and break every rule that says love should be anything other than what it is, messy, beautiful, and forever binding. Below it were two signature lines. Kate felt her heart swell until it hurt. You wrote this? Last night. Couldn't sleep. He produced a pen. What do you say? Ready to make it official? We literally just got married. I know, but this is the contract that matters. Kate took the pen, signed her name next to his. Their signatures overlapped slightly, ink bleeding together. Andrew folded the napkin carefully, placed it in his jacket pocket, right over his heart. Binding for a lifetime, he said. And then some, Kate added. He pulled her close, kissed her under the moonlight, surrounded by the last of the fairy lights and the flowers that had witnessed their vows. When they broke apart, breathless and smiling, Andrew kept his arms around her. Ready to go home, Mrs. Kellerman? Home. Not just a house or a mansion or any physical place. Home was this, him, Them. Together. More than ready. They walked toward the parking lot hand in hand. Behind them, the garden lights began to dim one by one. Ahead, their life stretched out like an open road. Unknown, unpredictable, perfect, because they would travel it together. Kate Bennett Kellerman looked up at the stars and thought about that terrified girl who'd stood in the gilded terrace entrance 6 months ago, the one who thought she didn't belong anywhere. She belonged here, with Andrew, building a life that didn't fit anyone's expectations but their own. And as they drove away toward their future, Kate knew with absolute certainty that this was just the beginning.